Welcome to my channel, Hotspot with Loveth, the ultimate spot for all things entertainment, ranging from celebrity gists, reviews, interesting stories, and African folktales. Subscribe now. It was an ordinary evening in Lagos, bustling with its typical blend of chaos and charm. Amidst the noise of honking cars and the rhythmic hum of market traders, Adedayo, a vivacious Yoruba woman, crossed paths with Udwak, a thoughtful man from Akwa Ibom State. Their meeting was pure serendipity at a book reading event hosted by a mutual friend. Adedayo, with her bright smile and infectious laughter, was the life of any gathering. Udwak, on the other hand, was more reserved, preferring to observe and reflect. Despite their different temperaments, there was an undeniable connection from the moment they exchanged greetings. "What brings you to book readings?" Adedayo asked, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. "I enjoy the stories and perspectives. They remind me of the diversity in our country," Udwak replied with a gentle smile. That evening, they found themselves deep in conversation, sharing their love for literature, their dreams, and eventually their cultural backgrounds. Adedayo learned about Udwak's life in Uyo, the traditions he cherished, and his favorite local dishes like afang soup. Udwak, in turn, was fascinated by Adedayo's tales of growing up in Ibadan, her passion for Yoruba folklore, and her love for amala and iwedu. They became friends, and as weeks turned into months, Adedayo and Udwak's relationship blossomed into love. Their love story became a beautiful tapestry woven from the threads of their distinct cultures. They navigated the nuances of their intertribal relationship with grace and humor. They discussed their distinct cultures, traditions, and histories. On one occasion, Udwak took Adedayo to Akwa Ibom's annual cultural festival, where she enjoyed the traditional dances and music. During this time, Udwak proposed to Adedayo, confident that she was the woman he wanted to spend his life with. When Adedayo introduced Udwak to her parents, they were initially skeptical. "Yoruba and Ibibio, how will you manage the differences?" her mother asked. Udwak's family shared similar concerns, worried about merging two very different cultural practices. However, they managed to convince their respective families that they were deeply in love and inseparable. The first meeting between their families was a blend of formality and festivity, held in Adedayo's family home in Ibadan. The atmosphere was tense, yet hopeful. Adedayo's father, a man of few words, observed Udwak closely, while her mother played the gracious hostess, serving an array of Yoruba delicacies. Udwak's parents, though reserved, brought a gift of freshly tapped palm wine, a gesture that Adedayo's family appreciated. Over the meal, the families bonded, discussing various topics from politics to shared love for traditional music, gradually easing the initial tension. Despite the pleasant interactions, underlying concerns remained. Adedayo's mother later expressed her fears to her daughter. "Marriage is more than love, Adedayo. It is about understanding and compromise. Are you ready for that?" Adedayo nodded. The day of the engagement ceremony arrived, and it was a blend of Yoruba and Ibibio traditions, symbolizing their commitment to honoring both cultures. Adedayo wore a beautiful Iro and Buba adorned with coral beads, while Udwak donned a traditional Ibibio outfit. The ceremony included Yoruba prayers and blessings, followed by an Ibibio dance performance. It was a vibrant celebration, yet it also highlighted the cultural contrast they would need to reconcile. The engagement was followed by the wedding ceremony weeks after. Their wedding was a grand affair held for 2 days to honor both traditions. The first day was dedicated to the Yoruba ceremony with elaborate rituals and colorful attire. Adedayo's family performed the traditional Eri Iyawo ceremony, presenting gifts to Udwak's family. The second day was an Ibibio affair, complete with traditional dances, music, and a vibrant display of cultural heritage. Adedayo wore a stunning traditional Ibibio dress, while Udwak looked dashing in his native attire. Despite the minor hiccups and moments of cultural confusion, the wedding was a success. It was a testament to their love and their commitment to embracing each other's heritage. As newlyweds, Adedayo and Udwak settled into their new life together. They faced the daily challenges of blending their cultural practices with modern values, from deciding which traditional food to cook to navigating different family expectations. They learned the art of compromise. Adedayo often prepared Yoruba dishes like amala and ewedu, while Udwak introduced her to the flavors of afang and edikang ikong. Their home became a harmonious blend of their cultures, with Yoruba art adorning the walls and Ibibio music filling the air. They discovered that their differences were not obstacles but opportunities to learn and grow together. When Adedayo and Uduak welcomed their first child, this was when they faced the major challenge of raising a child in a multicultural home. They wanted their child to embrace both Yoruba and Ibibio heritage, to speak both languages and understand the values of both cultures. They decided to name their daughter Morenike Nnem, a combination of Yoruba and Ibibio names meaning I have someone to pamper and you are precious. They celebrated her naming ceremony with a blend of Yoruba and Ibibio traditions, symbolizing their commitment to raising her in a culturally rich environment. However, as their child grew, she was speaking more of Yoruba than Ibibio, since Adedayo, being with her more often, naturally imparted more of her language. Uduak, despite his busy work schedule, made efforts to teach her Ibibio whenever he had the chance. On a new day, the morning sun shone brightly over Lagos, casting a golden hue on the bustling city. It was Morenike Nnem's open day at school, and Adedayo had taken the morning off to attend since Uduak was busy with work. As she walked through the school's courtyard, her heart swelled with pride at her daughter's achievements displayed on the classroom walls. Later that day, Uduak arrived home earlier than usual, a rare break from his demanding job. As he settled down in the living room, he noticed the pile of school documents Adedayo had brought home. Curiosity got the better of him and he started going through them. His heart sank when he saw Morenike listed as the first name instead of Nnem. What's the meaning of this? Uduak muttered to himself, feeling a surge of disappointment. When Adedayo returned to the living room, Uduak's displeasure was evident. Dayo, we need to talk, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Sure, what is it? Adedayo asked, sensing his tension. I saw the school documents. Why is Morenike listed as our daughter's first name instead of Nnem? Uduak's voice rose with each word, his frustration bubbling over. Adedayo sighed, a touch of exasperation creeping into her tone. What's the big deal, babe? Both names are registered. Does it really matter which one comes first? It matters to me, Dayo, Uduak replied sharply. I agree that our daughter should embrace both our heritages, but she is first an Ibibio because her father is. Nnem should always be represented first. Even on her birth certificate, you put Morenike as her first name. I don't like it. Adedayo felt a sting of irritation. Uduak, it's just a name. Morenike is a beautiful name and it represents my culture. Why are you making such a fuss about it? Uduak's frustration peaked. It's not just a name. Adedayo, it's not. It's about our daughter's identity. Nnem reflects her connection to my heritage. I want her to be proud of being Ibibio, just as much as you want her to be proud of being Yoruba. Adedayo's patience waned, and she will be, but insisting on one name over the other is not the way to do it. She spends more time with me, so naturally she will pick up more Yoruba. That doesn't mean that she is any less Ibibio. The argument escalated, both raising their voices, each trying to make the other understand their perspective. Adedayo, feeling overwhelmed, finally walked out of the room in frustration, leaving Uduak seething. The aftermath of their quarrel was a silence in the house, heavy with tension. Uduak sat alone, anger simmering beneath the surface. He loved Adedayo deeply, but this issue cut the core of his values and pride. He needed her to understand how important it was for him to see his heritage represented in their daughter's name. Meanwhile, Adedayo paced in their bedroom, her thoughts racing. She understood Uduak's perspective but felt he was being unreasonable. Why couldn't he see that their daughter was a blend of both their cultures and the order of names shouldn't matter? Later that evening, after some time to cool off, Adedayo returned to the living room. She found Uduak staring out the window, lost in thought. Babe, she began softly. I didn't mean to undermine your feelings. I know how important your heritage is to you. Uduak turned to her, his expression softening. And I didn't mean to make you feel like your culture doesn't matter. It's just, I want our daughter to feel connected to both sides of her heritage equally. Adedayo nodded and sat beside him. I understand and I'm sorry. I honestly thought the order of the names didn't matter. But I've learned. It won't happen with our next child on the way, I promise. Uduak's expression brightened. You're pregnant? He asked excitedly. Adedayo smiled and nodded. Overjoyed, Uduak lifted Adedayo up, hugging and embracing her, forgetting his anger in that moment. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. Well, I found out today when I felt a bit off, so before going to Inem's school, I stopped by the hospital for a checkup. You came home angry, so I didn't get the chance to tell you until now, Adedayo replied. I am super excited about this news, babe. Okay, I'm not angry anymore. Inem is 4 and now she's going to have a baby brother. I'm glad. The tension eased and Udwak and Adedayo returned to being a happy couple. However, occasional quarrels due to cultural barriers still cropped up between them from time to time. Throughout Adedayo's pregnancy with their second child, Udwak remained as supportive as ever. He attended every doctor's appointment, cooked meals, and took on more responsibilities at home. When their second daughter was born, although Udwak had hoped for a boy, his excitement and love for their new baby girl were undeniable. Friends and family visited to congratulate the couple and brought gifts. Laughter and joy filled their home as they celebrated the new addition to their family. However, during one of these visits, another issue arose that highlighted the cultural and language challenges they faced. Adedayo's brother came over one afternoon to wish them well. As the three of them sat in the living room, Adedayo and her brother naturally slipped into Yoruba, their conversation flowing effortlessly as they laughed and shared stories. Udwak, who barely understood Yoruba, felt increasingly isolated and excluded. To him, it seemed like an indirect message that he wasn't welcome in their conversation. Feeling disrespected and frustrated, Udwak excused himself and retreated to their bedroom. The laughter from the living room continued, but his absence went unnoticed by Adedayo and her brother. After some time, Adedayo's brother said his goodbyes and left. Noticing that Udwak hadn't returned, Adedayo went to the bedroom to check on him. Udwak was lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling. His thoughts, a mix of anger and hurt. When Adedayo entered, he sat up, his expression tense. Why did you leave the living room like that? Adedayo asked, concern evident in her voice. Udwak took a deep breath before responding. Dayo, do you know how disrespectful it felt to sit there while you and your brother spoke in Yoruba, completely excluding me? It's like I didn't even exist in that room. Adedayo frowned, feeling defensive. Udwak, we were just catching up. It's natural for us to speak Yoruba. You could have reminded us to switch to English if it bothered you. Udwak's frustration boiled over. I shouldn't have to remind you every time. It's about being considerate. How would you feel if I had a conversation in Ibibio with my family in front of you, leaving you out? Adedayo crossed her arms, her tone growing sharper. I don't think I would mind that. I'll just ask you to translate or switch languages. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Udwak shook his head, his irritation mounting. It's not nothing, Dayo. It's about respect. I felt like an outsider in my own home. I promise you, if it happens again, I will retaliate. The word retaliate hung heavily in the air, and Adedayo's eyes widened in disbelief. Are you seriously threatening me, Udwak? That's childish and petty. Maybe it is, Udwak replied, his voice steady. But maybe that's what it will take for you to understand how it feels. Over the next few days, the tension between Udwak and Adedayo was palpable. They spoke less, each absorbed in their own thoughts and frustrations. Udwak's words had hurt Adedayo, but she also couldn't shake the feeling that she had indeed been inconsiderate. A week later, the opportunity for Udwak's promised retaliation presented itself. Udwak's cousin, Etim, came to visit. They sat in the living room and Udwak deliberately began speaking Ibibio with Etim. The conversation flowed naturally between them, filled with laughter and animated gestures. Adedayo, sitting nearby with their newborn in her arms, felt a pang of hurt and exclusion. The words sounded foreign and isolating, just as Yoruba must have felt to Udwak. She tried to follow along, but the rapid exchange left her lost. Frustration and sadness welled up inside her. After Etim left, Adedayo approached Udwak, who was cleaning up the living room. Udwak, what you did today, it wasn't right. Okay, now I understand how you felt, but retaliating wasn't the solution. Udwak stopped what he was doing and looked at her, his expression softening. I wanted you to see my perspective, Dayo. I wanted you to feel what I felt since you were being defensive and unapologetic. Adedayo nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. And you won. Because it did hurt Udwak, she said as she walked away. Noticing how much his actions had hurt his wife, Udwak finished what he was doing and went to meet Adedayo, who was still upset. Babe, I wanted you to understand how wrong it felt when you and your brother switched to Yoruba, excluding me from the conversation we were all having. He said gently, I shouldn't have excluded you either. We need to be more mindful of each other's feelings. I'm sorry. Now smile for me. Smile for me, baby. Smile for me. Uduak said, tickling Adedayo. They both laughed it off, returning to their usual loving selves. In the days that followed, Uduak and Adedayo made a concerted effort to improve their communication. They set ground rules for conversations, ensuring they spoke in a language everyone understood when in each other's company. They also encouraged each other to learn more of the other's language, turning it into a bonding activity. They spent evenings teaching Inem and their newborn daughter words and phrases from both Yoruba and Ibibio, creating a bilingual environment. Adedayo started attending Ibibio language classes, while Uduak made an effort to speak more Yoruba at home. Their commitment to mutual respect and understanding began to bear fruit. They found a new rhythm in their relationship, one that honored both their cultural identities without sidelining either. The occasional quarrels still surfaced, but they faced each challenge with a renewed sense of unity and purpose. As they continued to navigate the complexities of their intertribal marriage, Uduak and Adedayo grew stronger together. They learned that respecting each other's cultures and languages wasn't just about making compromises, but about embracing their differences wholeheartedly. Their home became a testament to this unity. Walls adorned with Yoruba and Ibibio art, the aroma of both cuisines filling the air, and the joyful sounds of their daughters switching seamlessly between languages all symbolized their journey. Uduak and Adedayo discovered that love, patience, and respect were the true keys to overcoming cultural barriers. Their story, filled with its ups and downs, became an inspiring narrative of how two people from different worlds could create a beautiful, harmonious life together. Years later, as they watched their daughters grow, Uduak and Adedayo felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. They had not only built a family, but had also created a bridge between their two cultures. Their daughters, fluent in both Yoruba and Ibibio, carried the legacy of unity and diversity with them. Their love story continued to evolve, each day bringing new challenges and triumphs. But through it all, Uduak and Adedayo remained committed to each other, their family, and the beautiful blend of cultures they had forged together. Their journey was far from over, but they faced the future with confidence and hope, knowing that together they could overcome any obstacle and celebrate every joy. Their love, a true testament to the power of understanding and respect, shone brightly as a beacon of harmony and unity.